Wrestling and horror movies go hand in hand, with both glorifying ridiculous violence, overtly campy characters, and as many cheesy one-liners as possible. It is no wonder that so many members of the WWE elite took the initiative to head to the big screen, with horror movies in particular providing free rein to seriously capitalize on the ultimate spooky gimmick. The Undertaker better watch his back. Whether it's appearing as a hulking, unstoppable creation or just as your average movie-going gremlin lover, there is plenty of intersect between moonsaults and monsters. From Scooby-Doo and the WrestleMania mystery to pro wrestlers versus zombies, there is something for everyone in this bizarrely specific subgenre of movie. Somewhat ironically, I am the horror Ash appearing in the wrestling world of What Culture, and these are the 10 best times wrestlers appeared in horror movies. 10. Gremlins 2. Hulk Hogan. Of course, there is no other cameo that is quite as infamous as Hulk Hogan's appearance in horror comedy movie Gremlins 2: The New Batch, in which a load of the titular creatures have spawned within a skyscraper and threaten the wider populace if they manage to get out and wreak havoc. For some reason, Hulk Hogan is also there. Hulk Hogan is everywhere, and he has no time for gremlin sh*. Dressed up in his classic yellow and red number, he rips his way out of his shirt in frustration to threaten the beasts running riot in the theatre attempting to put nudie pictures on. Ooh, that's a bit close to the bone. He's just a good guy that wants a good time with his cold soda and hot popcorn. It's a hilariously meta inclusion and functions perfectly in line with the tone of the Gremlins movies, and really makes it clear. No one knows what to do when the Hulkamania runs wild on you, brother. 9. Santa's Sleigh. Bill Goldberg. Despite popular belief, Santa doesn't give those on the naughty list a lump of coal. Instead, he breaks into their houses via the chimney and shurikens them with a decorative star and sets their head alight like a particularly boozy Christmas pudding. Honestly, the truth seems like a much better way of getting kids to behave, but here we are. Surprisingly enough, it's regular good guy Goldberg that gets his sleigh on in this movie, playing a demonic killer in red velvet who takes vengeance on the world for no reason other than he is really good at it, being the Antichrist and all. The film is a ridiculously good time, playing expertly into its B-movie tropes and utilising Goldberg as the ultimate in violent takedowns. You could say they hit a goldmine with this casting. Especially since they got him to perform his finisher move by spearing a man through a deli counter and stabbing him with a menorah. As an added bonus, Goldberg's Santa outfit even looks like a wrestling ripoff with its giant belt, just in case you ever doubted that Father Christmas couldn't kick your ass at any point. 8. See No Evil. Kane. Considering Kane is supposed to be the hideous, deformed brother of The Undertaker and a demonic masked entity, they nailed his terrifying persona in horror films See No Evil, even if it did take them far too long to cast him in a horror movie. A far more serious take than most of the others on this list, See No Evil was the WWE Studios produced concept of a reclusive monster who lives in an abandoned hotel being used for community service, in which he hunts and murders petty criminals with a big-ass hook. Kane lives up to his role admirably, even if the film isn't its best. Most importantly though, WWE chairman Vince McMahon decided that he actually wanted Kane to have a 3-foot dick in this movie for some extra character gravitas. No one knows why or what it was for or where it was, since you never get to see it in the movie, but if you ever wanted to think about Kane whipping out a meter-stick penis to clock out some criminals, then today's your lucky day. You're welcome. 7. Many horror movies. El Santo. El Santo, or the Saint in English, is one of the most prevalent luchador wrestlers to come out of Mexico, appearing in countless films over his whopping 50-year career span to reinforce his image as a folk hero and all-round good guy, serving nothing but the mask. Inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame as a legacy, it is pretty clear to see that El Santo was and is a massive deal to the industry, the pioneering force in popularizing wrestling in Mexico to this day. Santo starred in a series of Mexican horror films titled Santo vs., with everything from The Evil Brain to The Witch's Attack listed as titles for his takedowns. Apparently, only 4 of his movies have been dubbed in English: Santo vs. the Vampire Women, Santo vs. the Zombies, Santo in the Wax Museum, and Santo vs. Dr. Death, which are all fantastically rendered 60s B-movies that play into horror legends and have Santo appear to save the day. It's cheating a bit to have a whole filmography as the best time El Santo appeared in a movie, but they are all so wonderfully weird and distinctly dedicated to his brand that it would be impossible to choose. 6. They Live. Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper's breakout role as the lead in John Carpenter's X-ray sci-fi horror is one of the best of its kind, turning the man from a wrestler that picked up odd B-movie roles into a full-blown actor. Sticking a pair of sunglasses on his face that let him see the truths of society, Piper realises we're surrounded constantly by subliminal messaging to consume and obey, and under the control of a load of skull-faced aliens that actually control our government. Believable, to be honest. Piper is brilliant as nada, the man attempting to free society from influence from these evil alien forces, acting out extremely long fight scenes with an obviously well-practiced hand and, of course, delivering the iconic line, "I came here to kick ass and chew bubblegum. And I'm all out of bubblegum." He's been in plenty of movies since, but Piper's best and most famous role is arguably his stint in They Live. 5. LA Slasher. Dave Bautista. Originally the WWE World Champion for 3 years, Dave Bautista swapped his heavyweight belt for a heavy-hitting filmography. Now a Hollywood A-lister thanks to his role as Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy. But before he became the achingly literal blue-skinned murder machine from outer space, Bautista was a drug dealer. And not even a very important one. Appearing in a role impressively titled The Drug Dealer Number 1, Bautista emerged as a seedy salesman selling cocaine to an heiress in one of the most terrible slasher movies to hit screens, LA Slasher, in which reality TV stars are abducted and murdered in a tabloid frenzy of uncomfortable proportions. Bautista's role is very small, as his character's name might suggest, but it is hilarious to look back and see him and Danny Trejo in a motel room shifting white powder. Now he's one of the faces of the MCU. Hey, we've all got to start somewhere. 4. Doom. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is perhaps the most famous and well-off graduate of the WWE film school that there is. Consistently one of the highest paid film stars of recent years and headlining blockbuster after blockbuster, The Rock has done everything from capitalizing on his video game proportions in Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle to replicating his innate niceness to tame gorillas in Rampage. And of course, it all started with a lovely little film called Doom. Whilst Doom is an action movie at its heart, it retains horror sensibilities through its visceral alien attack subject matter. And that leads us straight into celebrating Dwayne Johnson's turn as Sarge in 2005's spin-off from the original game. Some will tell you it is a terrible movie, but they just don't like fun. Johnson's acting career was founded in the early days in this massive role, in which he defines his action hero template with the same things that made him as a wrestler. 3. Freddy vs. Jason. Rey Mysterio. Now, as any Nightmare on Elm Street nut would know, Robert Englund is the man who plays Freddy Krueger, and has done ever since his first screen appearance. Embodying everything from Freddy's sassy quips to his creepy evil smirk, there is no one that could really take on the role and do it justice. That is, unless they're covered in prosthetics and thrown in a boiler room for stunt work, which Rey Mysterio somehow got the pleasure of doing. Acting as the big bad Freddy when he takes on another of horror's most impressive icons, Mysterio portrayed the burn slasher when he faces off against Jason in a dream sequence, used to perform a stunt on some pipes a little too risky for the then 50-odd-year-old England. Whilst Mysterio's face can't actually be seen since the pair look nothing alike, it's still a great, if secret, homage to one of the best horror villains in the industry. And just a really nice jump. Well done, Ray. 2. Halloween. Tyler Mane. Standing at an imposing 6 foot 8 inches and with a 10-year history in professional wrestling, Tyler Mane isn't a man you'd like to meet in a dark alley. That is especially true if you stick a machete in his hand and a white mask on his head, which Rob Zombie had the good sense to think of when casting for his Halloween reboot in 2007. Just how good the actual films he spurted out were is best left alone. But Tyler Mane's commitment to the one and only Michael Myers is an excellent addition to the horror history canon. Reinventing Michael from his 1970s origin, Mane was a great force in a subpar movie, giving a faceless murderer a great sense of direction considering we mostly just see his rubbery mask or long hair in his face. 1. Predator. Jesse Ventura. With roles in films like The Running Man, Demolition Man, and Batman and Robin, Jesse Ventura's place in film history is one that veers to the ridiculous in the best possible way. It's his first film role in Predator that is definitively his best, however, starring as Blaine Cooper in a group of Marines that become compromised in the Central American rainforest when an alien hunter begins to wipe out their team. Whilst the film is science fiction and action-leaning, it is another that borrows extensively from the horror genre in its setup of a monster hunting its prey, further proved by the later films in the series. In either case, the heavy-hitting, minigun-wielding, mustache-growing hard man of the group, Ventura is resident badass of a movie that has Arnold Schwarzenegger as the lead, which is saying something. His whole shtick becomes one of the best wrestler movie moments of all time purely for that blistering one-liner. I ain't got time to bleed. And so, a legacy was born.